Hi everyone, Miss Gooch here, and this is a video all about the poem Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley. So let's start by learning a bit more about the poet and the poem. Shelley wrote the poem in 1818, just after the British Museum gained a large piece of a statue of Ramesses II, and Ramesses was an Egyptian pharaoh who reigned for over 30 years, and he built more monuments, so statues, pyramids, buildings, than any other pharaoh had, and he had an army of 10,000 men, which was absolutely huge for the time. And Ozymandias in the poem is based on Ramesses II. The poem presents this broken statue of Ozymandias, and it shows that his power really hasn't lasted. All those things that he built and did in his time don't matter now. So how does the poem link to power and conflict? So in that way, to show that that power never lasts, and also to show that power makes people cruel and corrupt, as we'll see when we read the poem, which we are going to do now. So follow along with me. I met a traveller from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, yet which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away." Alright, so let's break this poem down to make sure we understand each part of it. So it opens with this line, I met a traveller from an antique land, and antique means old. So that just shows you that no one really visits here anymore. It's been forgotten about. And what he says is that he found vast and trunkless legs. So trunkless means without a body, so the body's fallen off, just the legs are standing. And near them a shattered visage lies. A visage means a face, so that would be this head over here. And on that face is a frown and a wrinkled lip and a sneer, which is a horrible facial expression. And it shows that the sculptor, so the artist, the person who carved this statue, really read Ozymandias well, really understood who Ozymandias was and carved that into the statue. And another thing that this sculptor understood was, and captured well in the statue, is the hand that mocked people and the heart that fed them. Not a good heart, a bad heart. So he fed people with cruelty and, malice and evil. And on the pedestal, so this is a pedestal, this would be what a statue stands on, these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. So, that is quite a bold statement. It shows you just how arrogant and full of himself Ozymandias was. And he says, look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. So despair, demonstrated by this image here, is a real extreme sadness, and that's what he wanted people to feel when they looked at everything that he'd created. But then we have this real tone shift. Nothing beside remains. The only thing that's left around the decay, so this statue's rotted around, is now referred to as a wreck. It's just the sands stretching far away. So all the things that Ozymandias created have vanished. They don't matter anymore. And people haven't even really remembered him. Because this is an antique land. No one travels there anymore. And basically nature's just reclaimed what was its property anyway. Just reclaimed the land with that level sand. So we can see in this poem how power has completely faded, it doesn't last at all, and how power made Ozymandias cruel and corrupt when he was pharaoh. So let's explore these quotes in a little bit more detail. So we'll start with this idea about power not lasting, and the word sunk here, so half sunk, a shattered visage lies. The word sunk could link to his power and reputation and how that has sunk and disappeared over time. And as I said, visage means face, so it could show there's nothing left to identify him. Yeah, the fact that his face is shattered shows that you can't even see who he really is anymore. His power has been completely shattered as well. And this line, very simple but very effective, nothing besides remains. So this directly juxtaposes, which means contrasts, the writing on the pedestal. So on the pedestal it said, look at my works, look at everything I've built, and there's nothing there. So it just shows you that what Ozymandias built was really nothing in the end. It didn't mean anything. And there's no one left to look at Ozymandias either. And then it's emphasised by this full stop. So we have, when there's a full stop or a bit of punctuation in the middle of a line, it's called caesura. And it emphasises how his power has completely come to an end. And then in terms of thinking about how power makes people cruel and corrupt, we're going to look at this line: frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command. So these facial expressions on the statue show how he completely looked down on people, and a sneer means to mock people in a cruel way. That's what that facial expression shows. So that just shows you the type of leader that Ozymandias was. And cold conveys his complete lack of care for people that he ruled over, and command presents him as a dictator. A dictator is a controlling leader, because he would just command people to do whatever he wanted without taking into account their feelings or opinions or ideas. And the alliteration here, cold command, it helps to make that phrase seem even harder and more aggressive. And then finally, look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. We've sort of touched on this before, but all of those monuments that he created, they would have been built by thousands of slaves. And think about, I mean, this was thousands of years ago. There was none of the equipment we have now. It was dangerous, it was back-breaking work, and many people would have died. And Ozymandias has no problem just taking all the credit for it. My works, these belong to me. And as I said before, despair is extreme sadness. He wants people to feel sad, hopeless, and afraid when they look at him and what he has created. He's not the type of leader that wants to spread joy and happiness. He wants people to live a life of sadness and fear under his leadership. So that really does show you how power can make people corrupt. And finally, let's have a little think about structure. So this poem is written in what's called the sonnet form, and it starts by following a very strict and syllable rhyme scheme of a sonnet, but then by the end it breaks down this form. It stops towards the end of the poem, and this could reflect how Ozymandias' power breaks down as time or as the poem passes. So it's a nice little structure point there to reflect that breakdown of power. And now it's over to you. So time to test your knowledge. I'd like you to pick one of the essay questions below and answer it using the quotations explored in the video. So how does Shelley present power in the poem? How does Shelley present Ozymandias as a ruler? And then the shine question is, what is the effect of having the traveller tell the story? So with that shine question, pick one of the other ones, but also add that shine question too. So have a go at one of those, send it over to your teacher when you're done, and then tune in for the next video.